Hi, I'm Paul Kyogan from GKTuition, and in this video I want to talk to you about simultaneous equations. Now the question I'm going through here is 2016 Paper 1 Question 2 Part B. There's two types of simultaneous equations that come up regularly in the Leaving Cert course. One of them is if you're given three equations and three unknowns, and to be honest, for the most part we solve those in similar vein to the ones that we solved at Junior Cert level. However, these ones are slightly different. So here I've got two equations and two unknowns, except that I've squareds in them. So I have an x squared and I have a y squared. So in this case, what you want to do is take your simpler equation. My simpler equation in this case being 2x plus 3y equals minus 1. And in this case, what you want to do is you want to isolate either your x's or your y's. So in this case, I'm going to isolate my x. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 3y from both sides, which means I get 2x is equal to minus 1 minus 3y. Now I want to get x on its own, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2, which means I get x is minus 1 minus 3y divided by 2. Once I've isolated one of my variables, I'm now going to look towards my more complicated equation. I'm going to rewrite this equation, except everywhere there's an x, I'm going to sub in minus 1 minus 3y over 2. So instead of x squared, comes minus 1 minus 3y over 2 to be squared. Instead of x multiplied by y, it's going to be minus 1 minus 3y over 2 times y. And I'm going to write that as y over 1. And my next term stays the same, it's still plus 2y squared equals 4. So now you'll notice I've got one equation, one unknown, which means I'm going to be able to solve it. So let's just continue on from here. I've got minus 1 minus 3y to be squared over 2. So if I square the top, that's minus 1 minus 3y by minus 1 minus 3y. That would give me 1 plus 6y plus 9y squared. If I multiply that bracket by itself. And I also have to square the bottom, so 2 squared gives me 4. On the next line, I have minus 1 minus 3y over 2 times y over 1. So multiply the tops by each other and multiply the bottoms by each other. So that should be a plus. So I'm going to multiply the tops by each other and multiply the bottoms by each other. Minus 1 by y is minus y. Minus 3y by y is minus 3y squared. 2 multiplied by 1 is 2. And I'm going to add 2y squared, and that's equal to 4. Now the next line is relatively straightforward. I want to get rid of my fractions. So in order to get rid of my fractions in this case, I'm going to multiply everything by 4. If I multiply everything by 4, my fractions will disappear. If I multiply the first fraction by 4, I'll just be left with 1 plus 6y plus 9y squared. If I multiply the second fraction by 4, well, 2 goes into 4 twice. So that means I'd end up 2 into 4 goes twice. So that means I'd end up by multiplying the top by 2. 2 by minus y minus 3y squared. And now I have 2y squared by 4 gives me 8y squared. And my right hand side is 4 by 4, it gives me 16. Okay, so now you'll notice I have y squareds, y's and numbers. So I'm just going to bring everything to one side and I'll have a quadratic equation and I'm going to solve it. Okay, so if we continue this one on, where we were, we had 1 plus 6y plus 9y squared plus 2 times minus y minus 3y squared plus 8y squared equals 16. So in the next line, all I've done is multiply the 2 by minus y gives me minus 2y. 2 by minus 3y squared gives me minus 6y squared. Now, if I bring my 16 to the other side, it becomes minus 16. So I added all my y squareds together, all my y's together, and all my numbers together. So my quadratic is 11y squared plus 4y minus 15. At this point now, all I have to do is factorize. So the factors of this quadratic are 11y plus 15 and y minus 1, which means I let each factor equal to 0 and I solve it. So I let 11y plus 15 equals 0, which means 11y equals minus 15. So if I divide both sides by 11, I get y is equal to minus 15 over 11. My other value then, I have y minus 1 equals 0, which means y equals 1. So I've worked out my two y values. Now over here, I've then gone and found my corresponding x values. Remember at the start we worked out that x is equal to minus y minus 3y over 2. So if y is 1, all I did was instead of my y I sub in a 1. So I get minus 1 minus 3 times 1 over 2. and that works out as minus 2, which means that when y is equal to 1, x is equal to minus 2. I did the exact same thing for my other value. Instead of minus 1 minus 3y, it's minus 1 minus 3 times minus 15 over 11 divided by 2, which means that the corresponding x value is 17 over 11. So I know that when y is minus 15 over 11, x is plus 17 over 11. So in any of those quadratic equations, if there's an x squared or a y squared in it, we'll always get two different answers. And once you get your first two answers, make sure you go back and find your corresponding x values or your corresponding y values. So again, I hope all of this made sense. If anyone's unclear on any of that, then just let me know in class or email me during the week, and I'll try and explain it differently.